Where did Cain find his wife? Where did she come from? Get ready as we explore together a mystery that has intrigued people for centuries, the origin of Cain's wife. Have you ever wondered how Cain, one of the first children of Adam and Eve, met a wife and had offspring? It's time to dive into the book of Genesis, where every word tells a story and every detail reveals hidden secrets. Yes, in this video, you will discover how events unfolded and the true origin of Cain's wife. This is not just a biblical narrative, it's a journey filled with mysteries, curses, and family connections that will surprise you. So, the time has come to unravel the enigmas behind the story, the origin of Cain's wife. As we explore the earliest chapters of human history, we find the fate of Cain, the firstborn of Adam and Eve, intertwined in intriguing ways. The relationship between Cain and his brother Abel goes beyond a simple fraternal narrative, especially during the episode of Sacrifice to God, an act of devotion where both present their offerings to the Most High. However, divine acceptance is exclusive to Abel's offerings, leaving Cain's offerings rejected. The reason for this refusal remains a fascinating enigma, generating different interpretations over the centuries. Speculation about the nature of the offerings and Cain's possible negative motivations forms a complex fabric of biblical intrigue. This episode not only marks the first human tragedy recorded in the Bible, but also lays the foundation for reflections on the consequences of human choices. Imagine waking up in a world where your actions have inexplicable consequences. This is exactly what happened to Cain after the fateful murder of his own brother Abel. Suddenly, Cain finds himself banished to the mysterious land of Nod, a land that existed on the eastern side of the darkest corners of Eden. Marked by the first act of murder in history, Cain was completely alone, without family or friends, only his guilt echoing in the caves of this new and unknown territory that was now his home. When divine wrath manifests itself, the punishment for Cain goes beyond what is imaginable. God, in his justice and mercy, not only marks Cain as a visible sign of his transgression, but the curse spreads like shadows over his psyche, casting him into a lonely state of wandering. This brand is not just physical, it is an emotional burden, a load of guilt that Cain carries with him, distancing him not only from God, but also from human coexistence. Cain's loneliness becomes a powerful symbol of spiritual and emotional alienation, a direct consequence of his choices. This is not just a punishment, but a dive into the depths of the human condition and the unpredictable consequences when the divine and the human intersect. There comes a time when divine mercy becomes intertwined with Cain's fate as he wanders as a lonely wanderer, fearing not only divine wrath, but also the possible deadly revenge that could lurk around every corner. God, in his infinite compassion, places a mark on Cain. It is not a symbol of condemnation, but rather a seal of divine protection, a safeguard against the human vengeance that threatens it. This act not only preserves Cain's life, but also portrays a complex interplay between divine mercy and justice. It is as if, even after his transgression, God reached out to protect the one who strayed from the path. This mark, enigmatic and full of meaning, not only ensures Cain's survival, but also symbolizes the mercy that mixes with divine judgment. It is a protection against other people's revenge, but also an indelible mark of Cain's fatal choice. How did this influence his destiny in searching for a mate? Herein lies the crucial point that piques our curiosity. Where, in this vast desert of solitude, did Cain find a wife? It's a question that echoes through the ages. After all, women were not mentioned before Eve. How, then, did this mysterious figure appear in Cain's life? For the Bible reports in Genesis 4 verses 16 and 17 that Cain, despite his punishment, finds a wife, establishes a marital relationship, and has a son named Enoch. There are two theories that fuel the mystery. Two explanations attempt to dispel the darkness surrounding the origin of Cain's wife. The first theory suggests that God, in his omnipotence, could have created additional groups of people, dispersing them to different parts of the world. However, a dilemma arises when we consider what is written in Genesis, when Adam calls Eve mother of all living. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, for she was the mother of all living. Genesis 3:20. Adam and Eve had several children who, according to the tradition of the time and the region, this number varied between 14 and 140. There are versions that say there were 33 sons and 23 daughters alone. However, we do not know a certain number. However, only 3 are mentioned in the Bible. This contradicts the idea of separate groups, doesn't it? As we explore these possibilities, one question persists: how do we reconcile God's creation of distinct groups with Eve's designation as mother of all living? It is a puzzle that challenges our understanding and leads us to reflect on the subtext of Genesis. A mysterious web of possibilities is forming, and the truth seems more elusive than ever. It seems that the answer to the origin of Cain's wife may be closer than we imagine. The other possibility hypothesizes that Cain may have chosen to follow a more familiar path, possibly marrying a sister or niece. Yes, we are considering the possibility of marriages within the family. In the early days of humanity, when the population was just a handful in the vast panorama of existence, marriages between relatives were not uncommon. It was an acceptable and even necessary practice when options were limited. Imagine a world where family relationships were the only option available, and the concept of kinship took on an entirely different importance. It is difficult for us, nowadays, to understand these dynamics, but at the dawn of humanity, this was a reality. So, could the answer to Cain's wife lie in the intricate web of family ties? We are only scratching the surface of this mystery as we explore Genesis. As we navigate the troubled waters of this enigma, we find an extra-biblical compass called the Book of Jubilees. This text takes us along paths that the Bible alone may not reveal. This enigmatic source suggests that Cain's wife may have had a name, Asherah. Yes, Asherah, daughter of Adam and Eve, whose story is revealed in an intriguing way. If you want to know more about Asherah, I invite you to check out a video on our channel that talks about the daughters of Adam and Eve. According to the Book of Jubilees, after the tragic event that separated Cain and Abel, Adam and Eve continued their journey through life. And, believe it or not, they had more children. Among these descendants was Asherah, who, by intertwined fate, became the wife of Cain. The narrative becomes even richer when we imagine this meeting between Asherah and Cain. A union that transcends the limits of the traditional Genesis account, but which, according to the Book of Jubilees, could have been the link that connected these iconic figures. So, we ask ourselves, did Asherah, the daughter of Adam and Eve, really walk alongside Cain, facing the challenges of exile and unraveling the mysteries of life? We get to the heart of this fascinating journey through the story of Cain and his enigmatic wife. This question, which has intrigued us since the beginning, leads us to a territory full of mystery and reflection. The answer to the question about the origin of Cain's wife is an extra-biblical answer that leads us to reflect and consider this possibility. This issue is not just a trivial detail. It is a gateway to the deep complexities of the biblical narrative, challenging us to understand the incomprehensible. Cain's descendants stood out for their propensity for violence and the practice of polygamy. Transporting this idea to our cultural reality, we could question why there are so many incestuous relationships mentioned in the Bible and how they are seen by contemporary religions. Let's explore this topic in more depth. The Hebrew Bible prohibits sexual relations between individuals who are closely related. These prohibitions are primarily outlined in Genesis 20 verses 11 to 13, Leviticus 18 verses 8 to 18, Leviticus 20 verses 11 to 21, and also in Deuteronomy. The Jewish perspective on incest is based on biblical categories of prohibited relationships and is influenced by rabbinic interpretations in the Talmud. The Karaites, however, do not accept the authority of Talmudic interpretations, thus differentiating themselves from biblical prohibitions. Different Christian denominations have their own categories of prohibited incestuous relationships, which may vary over time. Furthermore, the laws of various countries regarding prohibited relationships do not always coincide with biblical prohibitions or those of a specific church. Some books of the Hebrew Bible, especially in the early parts of the Torah, tell stories of people who had sexual relations with close relatives. This can be seen as incest, but it can also be understood as endogamy. The Bible does not prevent, for example, marriage between cousins, but it prohibits sexual relations with several other close relatives. In ancient times, many tribes preferred endogamous marriages. In other words, marrying a cousin was considered ideal and, in some cases, was even mandatory to prevent an older daughter from marrying someone outside the family. Marriage to a half-sister, for example, which is now widely considered incestuous by most countries, was common among Egyptian pharaohs. Likewise, the book of Genesis reports that Sarah married Abraham, her half-brother, without condemning the close genetic relationship between them. This overview shows how perceptions and norms about incest varied and still vary widely depending on cultural, religious, and historical context. Genesis, this masterpiece of religious literature, has intentional gaps. These gaps are not flaws, but invitations for us, as explorers of this ancient saga, to speculate, question, and marvel at the unfolding stories. Therefore, I invite you to transcend the written pages, to question traditions and challenge convention. After all, what do we really know about the relationship between Cain and his wife? This uncertainty urges us to explore between the lines and find deeper meanings. We are faced with an enigma that spans the centuries, and the truth is shrouded in shadows. However, it is in this mystery that the beauty of the journey lies. Cain and his wife are characters in an epic inquiry that continues to defy our understanding. So, travelers of the unknown, if you too feel inspired by these riddles, don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. As we unravel the mysteries surrounding the origins of Cain's wife, we are taking on a fascinating journey through the ancient pages of Genesis and beyond. Each clue, each revelation transports us to a world lost in time, where the lines between reality and myth intertwine in a tapestry of intrigue and reflection. The story of Cain and his wife invites us to question, to explore beyond what is known, to challenge the boundaries of human understanding. It is a narrative that echoes through the centuries, awakening our curiosity, inciting our imagination. So, I invite you to participate in this search for the unknown. Comment below your reflections, your theories, your own interpretations of this ancient enigma. Together, we can uncover more secrets and further challenge the frontiers of knowledge. His voice is an important part of this conversation. What do you think? Thank you for embarking on this journey with us. If you liked it, leave a like, share it with other explorers, and sign up for more adventures into the unknown. Until next time, where we will continue to decipher the mysteries that biblical history has in store for us. See you soon.